sure by now I've reached out our tears stepped in and saved the day once again. Stay still as time whisper through I'm with you. As your mercy falls, reach my hands, praise the God of takes away. I'll praise you in the storm. I'll lift every tear I cry. You never left my side. And though my heart's torn, praise you in the storm. Takes away. I'll praise you in the storm. I will lift my hands, for you are who you are. No matter when, every tear I cry, you more than you ever left my side. Praise you in the storm. I lift my hands to you. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. I lift my hands to you. Where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord. I lift my hands to you. Where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord. I lift my hands to you. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. soul.
Well, that's a good way to start. Wow. I'm gonna put my headphones on. I'm really hoping that that song came through. If it's meant to, it will. So always I have to remember to put that in the Lord's hands, right? So this has been an amazing but challenging mentally week for me. So I'm looking forward to being able to share that with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this. Um, if you're watching later, thank you for taking the time out to watch. Yeah, let's start with prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for being our salvation, for being our witness, and for being our guide into this life that you have created for us. Lord, please give us the strength to remember to put everything in your hands and to try our best while we know it's not going to be perfect, to allow you to lead us through. Lord, as we know, when we give that authority to you, instead of trying to do it on our own, you reveal things that maybe we didn't know, maybe we couldn't see. You reveal those things to us, and we're just so grateful. Lord, thank you for pulling us through the storms. Thank you for showing us the way. Thank you for being by our side. Thank you for all that you've done. Lord, if there's anyone out there hurting today, please remind them that you are there and that all they have to do is look for you in order to find the inner peace they desire. Lord, I'm so grateful that you brought me into this life. Lord, I know that you were just waiting on me. And I appreciate the patience you had with me because that patience has shown me that I must have patience with you as well. Lord, you are just blessing us more and more each and every day. Please give us the wisdom to know what to focus our attention on throughout our days. Lord, thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing the people listening to this to be here. And thank you for giving us everything that we already need right inside of us. In your name, amen. Amen, amen. Oh man, you guys, I'm gonna wait a few minutes. It's 6:56, so this is supposed to be at 7 a.m. It has just been such an amazing, amazing experience this week. The Lord will come through when we need him to. I can definitely attest to that. Sometimes we forget that we don't have to rely on ourselves. And, sometimes you have to remember that it's okay not to. Because when we do rely on ourselves, we have to remember that's when we develop stress and anxiety and overwhelm and whatever else comes our way. I was trying to stream this, but the connection's not allowing me to, and that's okay. Just so glad to be here. I can't wait to share with you guys the experiences and just how God is moving in my life. It's overwhelming at times, I will say, but those are the times that I do have to remember to give it to Him and not rely on myself. And it's a work in progress for sure. It's definitely not perfect, right? So that's why I always say perfectly imperfect. I am. I think if we ever think that we are an expert or we forget to stay humble, that's when the enemy can creep in even more. And it's also when the relationships that we develop aren't always the best because they're developing for the wrong intentions, right? You guys. Just gonna sit quietly for a couple minutes. If you're watching this later, just sit quietly for a moment. This is something we forget to do sometimes. Lord, thank you. If you're anything like me, sitting quiet is not an easy task. I'm going to talk about this a little bit, but Yeah, sometimes I have to remind myself just to breathe. Yeah, it's still. With each breath we take, I pray that you'll allow the Lord to come in with the breath, and that you'll allow the enemy to go out when you breathe out. This is so important. Allow the breathing of life to come into your soul, and allow everything else to go out. All right. Well, it's 7:01. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just to kind of reiterate, this was something that came to me the beginning of 2020, so literally over a year ago. And even the name came to me. And I had all these women coming into my life who were going through some things, right? We were all going through stuff any given day, right? We all do. And I started just thinking, like, I'd love to put something together and get all these women together and allow them to get to know one another. But what happened in 2020? Well, the first meeting that had already been scheduled before everything started to shut down, uh, only one person came up, and that's okay. Because I always say I only need one, right? So the Lord tells us where two or three are gathered, He is there. Where only two are there, He is there. So if you're watching this, you're two or three or however many out there, right? He's there. And even in our quiet time, He's there. And so I have to remember that in this journey, that it's not just up to me to do everything. And I always have tried to do everything, but it's never really gone the way I planned it because I wasn't doing it through Him. I was doing it using my own strength. And when we do that, as you know, we become weak and weary. We're tired. We're wore out. We're stressed. We're overwhelmed. And we're not able to get things done like we need to get them done. So I have some things that I'm going to talk about this morning. First of all, like I said earlier, this has been an amazing but challenging week for me. Okay. A little bit of a backstory. I began, I was introduced to an individual here in Jacksonville, Florida, who owned a gym. And for anyone who doesn't know, I am a personal trainer, health coach, now more of a life coach than anything, which I enjoy that, I think, a little bit more. And I also coach nutrition. But so when I found out about it, I was actually more interested in the kids' fitness classes that he was doing. The Lord has really been putting on my heart to work with more kids, just because I was a kid who was lost, and the world around me was very chaotic and toxic. And so I really feel like the Lord is putting it on me more and more to be the voice for these kids, and to be that support system for the ones who think that's what their life has to become, right? Because it definitely does not. And I know that now. But there was a time where I did, and I was a lost soul for so long, like over 20 years. Okay. Probably more closer to 30 years now that I think about it. And that's why I said the Lord was patient with me. He waited and he waited and he waited. And I think he finally realized that because I'm so stubborn, he was going to have to do something drastic to get me to wake up. And I started this because I don't want anyone else out there having to wait that long. Now, obviously, I can't change anyone and I can't fix anyone. And I know that. But if I can share my testimony to give someone else out there hope, then why not? So I started this, like I said, there was one person at the meeting, and then, the pandemic happened and everything was kind of just all over the place, right? So I realized that actually I decided, right? I didn't seek the Lord for this. I decided that I would not do the meetings. And because we had like a text thread going and some people were getting frustrated for getting text messages like crazy. And then I understood that. Um, but there was nothing else there. I didn't know what else to do. So fast forward a couple months later, I came in contact with someone who had convened communities. And in that, he and I developed a great relationship. And, come to find out he's a Christian counselor and he's also a retired Marine and a pilot, and he does a lot of great things still for other people. And so we had a really great connection. And then, I began becoming a little fearful, only because my husband had recently retired. Um, my business, there was pretty much nothing coming in. There was some during COVID, I was able to build some home workouts and do more Zoom calls and nutrition coaching and things like that. But like, other people just weren't focused and so they took themselves out. Right. So there was a time where there just wasn't a whole lot coming in and I had this opportunity to help someone, a good friend, and it was supposed to open many doors. And it sounded great. I had a pastor tell me one time, don't always chase the shiny things, right? I want to think about that for a little bit, the shiny things. Uh, how often do we do that? Things sound great, right? I still to this day have to work at discerning the shiny things between the things of God. Oh man, you guys. It's a difficult process, right? So anyway, I started this back because it never went away. I stopped it, but the Lord never stopped it. So now that I have the Convene Communities platform, guess what? That was the end. That was, here we go. And now it's a way to have that community that I desired having for women, and really anyone, but mostly for the women that I knew and have come to know and still in meeting on a daily basis. And now we can all come together and share things and be the support system for each other. So with that, I'll go into my story a little bit that happened this week, but I wanted to kind of just, give a little bit of a backstory of where this kind of came from. And I used to think that I needed to go through some kind of, seminary school or there's always the imposter syndrome, right? Like, what if I'm not equipped for this? type thing. I think we all experience that. And I look forward to seeing, any replies and, what you guys think about that. I definitely believe that most of us go through that at some point in our life. And, you know, I've chased a lot of things. I have a ton of education, I have degrees and things like that, but all that just gave me even more experiences to help other people, right? So it's not about the shiny things, like everything that's behind me that you see. It's great to know that you have accomplished things, right? But it doesn't define you, what you have or haven't accomplished, you know? It doesn't define you. So anyway, uh, back in December, like I said, I collaborated with the guy that owned the gym. He had the classes for the kids, and I have an 11-year-old, and I messaged him. He was open to meeting. I met with him. I brought my daughter. I had my friend. One of my friends was still living with us at the time with her 2 children. We all went up there, and the kids had so much fun. I was able to train my daughter. Um, it was just an amazing experience. And in that, the owner realized that I had my own business, and he, wanted me to help him with his a little bit. And at that time, I also had another coach with me who was moving back here, and I wanted to open up an opportunity for him. I have another good friend. There was an opportunity for her to come in. But I did not seek God before I made the decision. So in that, I asked the owner, I said, well, how much can you afford to have me here? He wanted me to be there 3 times a week, 4 hours a day, and then come back and teach the kids fitness classes, which was another 3 hours, right? Which is a lot for everything that I had going on. But I didn't really think about it. I really wanted, do you understand where that comes from? Yeah. I know, Lord, I know. I wanted to have a purpose in these kids' lives. But the longer I was there, the longer I realized that's not where God wanted me. Now, there was a reason I was there. I met a lot of amazing people that I probably would not have met. So I don't believe that the Lord completely didn't want me there. I do believe that we all have a season, right? There's a season for everything. And there was a season for me to be there and help the kids that I did help, and meet the parents that I did meet, and meet the coaches and the athletes and the ones that, I did meet. There was a reason that I was there. But then it became a little toxic mentally for me. Now, when I was in the military, we were taught to shut up and color, right? Like, you can't fight everything. You have to pick your battles. And I think that's probably why I wasn't in the military forever, right? It's probably why the Lord didn't allow me to retire, because he didn't want me to shut up and color. And we're not, none of us are meant to shut up and color. We have so much inside of us. And when someone tells us not to be us, that's going against everything the Lord has for us. So fast forward a couple months, and it was just a struggle. I couldn't be me. The owner, he just wanted everything his way. It was all about him. And I tried to have a couple conversations with him, but he would kind of make me feel bad, and then I would cave because I'm a people pleaser and I like to please people and I don't want to hurt anyone. I've hurt people already in the past and now I don't want to hurt anyone else. But he used that against me, the owner did. And it was manipulative at some point. It got to a point pretty recently where I didn't even want to bring anybody up there because I knew they weren't going to get taken care of. And I can't be somewhere like that. So yesterday, I finally, the Lord is still working with me on communication when it comes to conflict. Okay. And because I had already tried to have conversations with him in the past, while I am a person who wants to settle things in person, I was at a birthday party with my daughter, and I know that it's better for me to formulate my thoughts in words in writing. I've been a writer since I was 15. I still write to this day. And I know that that's the best form of communication for me when it comes to a situation like this. And so you know, I prayed a lot this week, a lot, you guys. Like, I wrote so many verses down and studied the word. And I ended up sending the text. And what I got back was pretty typical of what I've been receiving. But it was hurtful. It was very hurtful words in a text message. So that's when I knew the Lord had more for me. That's not where I was meant to be. So I pray today that if you're in a situation where you're struggling mentally, you guys, there's so much opportunity out there. That's what I'm learning more and more. Like, there's literally so much opportunity. And I was having to say no to some things in order to go to that specific place 3 days a week, 7 hours a day. But those were the opportunities I was meant to be in, right? So instead of sourcing myself to one place where I was getting basically $7 an hour with a master's degree, that's pride. I'm sorry, Lord. The Lord wants me to be wherever He takes me. He doesn't want me to be in one place. He wants me to be everywhere. There's so many children in this community who aren't being served at that place. So it's my time to go out into the community and see where I can serve. And it's not about money. I think sometimes we get so focused on what we don't have, right? And I'm so guilty of this too, that we forget what we do. And, I was there mostly for other people, not for me. I thought it was partly for me, but it was more for my daughter and to make my husband happy, because then I'm bringing in a little bit more income. And, I had that other coach that was going to be an opening for him. And then I have my friend who that was going to be an opening for her. And she didn't take it, So I wasn't doing it for me. So I'd love for you to, have something. I don't know if any of you have a notebook, but if you have something to write in, I'd love for you to write down, make a list of what you allow to influence you when it comes to making decisions. Is it what you feel in your heart is best? Or is it what other people feel are best for you? It's a good one, right? It's so important for us to remember that at the end of the day, no matter what, We're the ones who are in the situation. We're the ones who God is using, not anyone else. I tell my health coaching clients this all the time. No one else is in your journey. No one else is in your journey. It's your journey. It's the journey that God has for you. So if we're allowing other people to influence us, whether it's on social media, the news, other people we love, friends, if we're allowing those people to influence us, are we really able to 100% show up for ourselves? I wasn't able to. You know, I got to a point where I didn't enjoy going up there. I enjoyed the time with the kids. So after I'd go pick up our daughter from school and we'd go back up there, I enjoyed that time. But then I realized my daughter kind of started pulling away too. She wasn't as interested as she had once been. And so that's going to lead me to another topic that I want to kind of go into. My daughter and I, we both are ADHD. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know what that is, attention deficit hyperactive activity disorder, right? It's not really a disorder. I say it's a enhancement, right? I think that, you know, when you put those words on it, disease or disorder, like, yeah, that's a title, right? And so then you get stuck in those titles. I think if someone had actually diagnosed me with this when I was a child, it probably would have impacted me even more of, you know, well, I'm this, here's my title, right? But the fact that I didn't know that I had it until my daughter was diagnosed with it actually helped me, because when I was going through the counseling with her, I started realizing that I had the same tendencies. And for a lot of people, they don't realize that this is genetic. And it also has to do a lot with any trauma that we've endured uh, in our lives, or from what I found out just recently, in utero. Um, I was talking to a guy and he specializes in this area, and I was telling him about, you know, what was going on during my pregnancy with our daughter. My mom was very sick. I was driving, you know, I was still active duty military. I was driving 2 hours to go help my mom and 2 hours back and trying to sleep. And I was going to school and taking prerequisites for physician assistant school. And when my mom actually passed away, I was taking finals. And so I never allowed myself to deal with anything. I just kept pressing, kept pressing, kept pressing. 2 months after my mom passed, my daughter was born. And so there was just never a moment to feel anything. And I bring this up because I think it's important for us to give ourselves some grace, because no matter what we have going on in our lives, you know, we're amazing individuals. And it doesn't matter how many mistakes we've made, it doesn't matter what we've done in the past. God has already released us from that. The Jesus has already released us from that, right? He died on the cross to release us from our own burdens, our own mistakes, our own sins. So why is it so hard for us to release ourselves? So I went to a workshop. We were out in Japan shortly after my daughter was diagnosed, and I was doing personal training at that time, and I was just all over the place. I was missing appointments sometimes and forgetting things, and my mind was always a million miles an hour, and I always wondered why I always switched. You know, I got bored very easily. I always had to, what was next? What was next? What was next? And I went to a workshop and they were talking about adult undiagnosed ADHD. And some of the things that they talked about were adults who are undiagnosed or even diagnosed, like they're very impulsive, they're promiscuous, uh, disorganized, have problems prioritizing, poor time management skills, problems focusing on a task, trouble multitasking, excessive activity, restlessness, poor planning, low frustration tolerance. Does anybody I used to get so upset so easily. Frequent mood swings, definitely. Problems following through and completing tasks, very much so. Hot temper, yeah. And trouble coping with stress. You guys, like when I saw all these things, I cried. And this was, I think, 2017. I was just in tears at that workshop because all this time, you know, I thought something was wrong with me. Why was I promiscuous? Why did I get bored so easily? Why did I jump from one thing to another? And here's my calm husband who doesn't understand any of it, right? And it really helped me though, because being able to see these things in myself allowed me to become more open to learning what I needed to learn to help our daughter. So she and I are two peas in a pod now. And I definitely realized that God was trying to show me something, even though back then I wasn't as close. I hadn't put forth the effort to get close to him as I have now. Um, and so but he was still showing me things, you know. So I think that sometimes we have to remember we are who we are. And some people are gonna like us and some people aren't, and that's okay. It's okay. Because as long as we are allowing the Lord to lead us through, that's all we need. That's all we need, you guys. And I didn't know this. I'm almost 43 years old. I didn't know this. I didn't know I could rely on him. I heard people say it and it sounded great, but then life would happen, right? Like I remember I was going to church when we were in England. As 2007, and I found out my mom had contracted HIV, and she already had multiple sclerosis. She was already struggling in her life, and then that happened, and I was going to church, and I was trying to listen, but then why were all these things happening then? Like if God was who they said God was, why were all these things happening? Like my mom had just finally started going to church. She was just finally trying to do better for herself, and then that happened. She got diagnosed with HIV. That's like a death sentence. And it was. And so it's like, I think sometimes we forget that the Lord doesn't say that he's not going to give us any, like, and I'm not going to say he doesn't give us any trials, right? But they're going to happen, right? That's the enemy trying to take us out. Anytime we try to do good in our lives, that enemy is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Think about it. When I began to get closer to God, so many things were happening, even just recently. But it was a test. Are you going to come to me or are you going to stray from me? And so now I go to him and I spend more time with him. And then he gives me the answers that I need because I do that. And I make that, it's the effort that we put into things, right? And so I want to encourage you today, if you're out there and you're struggling in any area of your life, just to learn how to let go a little bit. And if you've never trusted God, like I had not fully, I encourage you to take the first step. And you know what it took for me? It took everything in my life crumbling. So many things were going on. I was so far in debt. I was paying rent with credit cards. I had received some great clients, but then the one that I really loved and hoped to continue to work with, like, left. Um, my relationship was in shambles. My daughter and I were at each other's throats. And one day I just dropped to my knees and I said, Lord, if you're there, please take over because I got nothing left. And there's so many of us who get to that point, and I'm sure you've known, I definitely have known people who didn't seek the Lord. And they instead took their own life. They had nothing left. And I want to pray for those lost souls today. I want to pray for any of the lost souls out there who feel like they have nothing left, and who feel like the only way out is to force it. Guys, I want to encourage you today that if you are still here on this earth, there's a reason. God has more for you. The world needs you. There's so much chaos in the world. There's so many children out there suffering. There's so many adults suffering. And when more of us begin to share our stories and our experiences and our testimonies, the voices get louder. I'm only one voice. But when our voices come together, it's loud. You guys, there's going to be people out there who want to hurt you. I posted something last night. It was so true. Someone said it the other day, and I thought back and I was like, yeah, I remember hearing that and remembering I was a hurt person. Right? So I don't judge anybody who hurts other people because I know they're hurt. They are hurt. Hurt people hurt people. So if you've ever been hurt in your life, there's a high possibility that you said or done something that hurt someone else. I have. I would be the first one to admit it now. I wouldn't have admitted it a few years ago because the pride was in the way, right? I didn't want anyone to know that I wasn't perfect. But when we learn to let go, we can learn how to be loving and kind again, right? So with the gym owner here in Jacksonville, I'm not upset with him. I pray for him because I've been that person. Maybe not to the extent that he is, but it's not a good place to be because you start to push the wrong people away. I've done it. That's okay though. You know, I just pray for him, and I pray for the children who come there because they look up to him. And he's broken. He's hurt. And that's okay. And like I said, I just want to pray for him. And I want to pray for you. And I want to pray for anyone out there who feels like the world is against them. Because I know that feeling all too well. And it's just not a good place to be. I'm going to flip to some of the verses that I was studying the other day. I just began to write down literally everything. And our pastor at church spoke about it this past Sunday, and he actually gave us all these verses, and then I actually began to study them. And when I studied them, I was like, some of the verses that are bitter and angry verses are Job 4:8 through 9. I wrote down, even as if I have seen those who plow in equity and sow trouble reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his anger they are consumed. Iniquity is immoral or grossly unfair behavior. Proverbs 22:8 says, he who sows iniquity will reap sorrow, and the rod of his anger will fail. Hosea 10:13 says, you have plowed wickedness, you have reaped iniquity, you have eaten the fruit of lies because you trusted in your own way. In the multitude of your mighty men. Matthew 7:1-5 says, judge not that you not be judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye? Oh my gosh, you guys, this verse, when I first began my journey in 2019, this verse spoke to me so much. And I'm sure I'd heard it before, but we have to be open to listening to certain things at a certain time, right? And so when I read this, and I'm going to continue, but I pray that you'll be open to actually listening and putting it to use in your own life. So it says, why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite. First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. You guys, most of the time when we are projecting things on other people, it's because we're not willing to turn the mirror around. We're not willing to look at ourselves and see, what do we need to work on? It's really easy to judge other people and to blame other people. But what's inside of us? It's not an easy journey, believe me. But it's so worth it. Some of the kind and loving verses, well, actually, I definitely encourage you to go ahead and read through chapters 22 and 23 of Proverbs. Like, just those two chapters will change your life. I was talking to my daughter yesterday, and she said, well, I started with Genesis, and I was like, yeah, I tried that. That didn't work out very well. Start with Proverbs, if anything. If you're struggling and you want to learn more about the Bible, if you want to read the Bible, start with Proverbs, chapter 22, 23. I mean, you can start anywhere else, and if you're struggling to pray, Psalms, right? I think those were the two that I learned early on. Two things. But anyway, I want to go through some of these verses. So Proverbs 22:9 says, he who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he who gives up his bread to the poor. I remember even when I was struggling financially, and still am, I'm grateful that we have a roof over our heads and I have a car that's paid off, but we don't have anything extra, right? There's no traveling, there's no, nothing extra. And that's okay because our needs are being met and that's all that matters. But I remember, when I first started learning about tithing and giving and how when we give, we receive what we give, right? So when I wasn't giving, I wasn't receiving anything. and giving isn't all about money. It can be giving of our time, giving of the things that we already have inside of us, right? But this last pay that I received from the gym owner here, because I was so conflicted in what to do with that situation, the Lord put it on my heart to give. And so when I did see the money hit my account, guess what I did? I gave half to my church and half to my nonprofit. I'm the vice president for a nonprofit here in Jacksonville called Transitioning Queens Incorporated, and we help women in toxic relationships get out. And we give them the tools to learn how to become worthy and feel like they deserve good things, because that allows them to show up for their children a lot better too, because they've been torn down at that point mentally. And so it involves programs and self-defense and things like that. And that's what we're working towards. So that's what I did. I gave half to that. And I didn't take any of that money. Now, if my husband knew that, he might not be too happy. Shh. But it felt good. And then what happened, it was like God was just showing me more and more what he needed me to do. So if you're struggling, give of yourself, make a meal for someone, give your time, give your whatever you have to give. If you're struggling, give. I had to learn that. And it's helped me out so much. When I'm down and out, I give. I have a conversation with someone, or I ask them how they're doing, and I just have to do that because it gets me out of my own head. James 3:18 says, now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Do you make chaos or do you make peace? It's a good question, right? Hosea 10:12 says, sow for yourselves righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, so he comes and rains righteousness on you. This was a really good one that I wrote down this week as well. John 4:38, it says, I sent you to reap that for which you have not labored. Others have labored, and you entered into their labors. So what I wrote down about this was the man who is crowned with imminent success has no cause of boasting over others, right? You don't need to tell everybody. If you have the favor of God, you don't have to say anything. That's what I'm learning. Because the people who want to know us, they're going to know us. They're going to want to know us. We don't have to tell them who we are. The man who reaps the field of grain should boast over the man who sowed it. The labor of both is equally necessary, and the labor of both would be useless if God did not give the increase. Last week I posted, actually I think it's this past week as well. I'm telling you guys, this week has just been a good week, right? Very revealing, very enlightening, very awakening, right? Spiritual awakening. Perfect. But one of the things that I posted, I said, for someone in a field like mine where we're providing services, it's not about boasting about ourselves. I mean, we can be happy about things that happen, right? Like I can share part of my journey and share my testimony, but I'm not going to boast, right? Like I shouldn't always just be sharing my stuff. Like I should be boasting about my clients too, because it's a team effort. I can't help them without them wanting to be helped, right? Without them being open to receiving what I have to offer, just like the Lord. He can't help us unless we are open to receive it. So with that being said, and for the sake of time, I want to go into another prayer, and I just pray that we are open to receive all of what God has for us, whether it's the people he brings into our lives, the scriptures he puts in front of us. We have to be open to receive. Dear Lord, thank you so much for allowing us to come together today. Thank you for allowing me to be on here and to be able to share these things in my heart that I once was not able to share. Thank you for giving me the strength to be who you want me to be, and for allowing me to be open to receiving what you have for me. Lord, I just pray for anyone out there who's struggling today. I pray that they will become open to receive. And I pray that you will show them that it's not about doing it overnight. It's about the baby steps. And it's the one step in front of the other that matters. So, Lord, I just pray that you continue to guide each and every one of us. And you continue to reveal things to us. And I pray that we will be open to receiving the revelation. Because, at least from what I've learned, if we're not open to it, we're going to go down the path of destruction, and that's not what you want for us. Lord, please continue to lift us up, each and every one of us. Lord, if there's someone here today who needs you, or to me, who needs to cry out to you and give you everything that they have, Lord, give them the strength to do that. Give them the strength to come to you and not rely on themselves. Give them the strength to know there's more. It just takes the first step. Lord, thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for all that you will continue to do. Thank you for lifting us up when we're down. Thank you for pulling us out of the valleys that we walk through. Lord, our tests are our testimonies, and our struggles are our strength because we have you. Today, I just want to thank you. I just want to encourage anyone out there who doesn't know you to take the first step. In your precious Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I pray that this has encouraged you in some way, shape, or form. And if there's anything that I can do to help you along the way, you just let me know. Love you guys. Have a blessed day. This is Spiritual Awakening Ministry, and I'm Jody Watson.